When it comes to Clair Obscur, I think we can all agree that Sandfall created a wondrous world full of fantastical charm. While the nigh unrivaled graphics and visionary vistas play a large role in the feeling evoked by existing within the canvas, I believe that Gestrals deserve far more credit in creating the atmosphere achieved within this game. So I wanted to make this video in part as an ode to Gestrals, but mainly to bring more awareness and understanding for what they actually are and what their narrative function is within the story, as I have found that a lot of people misunderstand the meaning and the importance of Gestrals. I plan to explain both in depth, so please stick with me throughout the video as I broach the topic. So let's start with Monoco and expand from there. He is Painted Verso's stalwart ally and longtime best friend. For those who don't know or who may have missed it, Monoco is actually named after the real Verso's dog, Monoco. Like many things in Clair Obscur, there is a deeper meaning to this detail. When we pause to consider that the real Verso painted the worlds and would have painted Monoco, we can basically put two and two together and assume that Monoco is essentially meant to be a stand-in for the real Verso's dog. Now, this doesn't just fit logically, there is anecdotal evidence as well to support this notion. Take for instance the fact that we find Monoco at Monoco Station, which is of course a train station. The Faceless Boy mentioned in the game that he loves train stations, and as we know, the Faceless Boy is a fragment of real Verso's soul. So this parallels a dog's behavior in real life when they lose their owner. As we know, they will often wait at a place of significance relative to their owner should their owner pass away. We've also seen this showcase in gaming before as well in Persona 3. In Persona 3, we meet Koromaru the dog as a stray that is continually lingering at a religious shrine and following the same walk path every day. We later come to find out that Koromaru's owner was a monk who passed away, and he is continuing to walk the same route they used to take together. So I definitely find it significant that Monoco chooses a train station as his place of respite from his travels with Painted Verso, as the real Verso loved trains. In fact, both Monoco and Koromaru mirror the Hachiko phenomenon. For those who don't know, the Hachiko phenomenon refers to the true story of an Akita dog named Hachiko in Japan. Excuse my pronunciations if I'm getting it wrong. But Hachiko became a national symbol of loyalty and devotion. Basically, in 1920s Japan, Hachiko waited every day at Shibuya Station for his owner, Professor Ueno, to return from work. But one day, Ueno died unexpectedly while he was at work at the university in 1925. In spite of this, Hachiko continued waiting daily for his owner to return. People began bringing him food and treats, and eventually his story became famous nationwide. Eventually, after 10 years, Hachiko died, and a bronze statue of Hachiko was erected in 1934 at Shibuya Station in his honor. It still stands today as a beloved meeting spot and a symbol of faithfulness and devotion. To continue along though, a core part of Monoco's character and gameplay is of course his collection of Nevron legs. Through collecting Nevron legs, he gains power. Please look at the first scene they show him doing this. What does this look like to you? It looks exactly like a dog digging for something, which I think is so hilarious and so meta that they put this in our faces like this. Of course, if you think about it a few layers deeper, Nevrons are of course painted beings. It would be fair to say that these legs after the Nevrons are defeated are akin to bones. So Monoco is basically collecting bones and reveling in the act just like dogs do in real life. This isn't just about Monoco though. What I'm trying to tell you is that the entire race of Gestrals are actually a representation of man's best friend. They're dogs. When you make this connection, so many things they say and do feel exactly like something a dog would say or do if you could understand them. Let me run through some examples. The Gestral merchants always want to fight you before you get access to their wares, and Gestrals in general love fighting. This is basically a representation of a dog's playful nature and a willingness to always play. A Gestral fighting equals a dog playing. In the game, one of the side quests is to find lost Gestrals and bring them back to camp. This is the equivalent of finding stray dogs in the world. There's the iconic "This is fine" Gestral, of course, which is meant to be a meta reference to the iconic "This is fine" meme in real life, which I don't know if you remember, but it features a dog, not a person. The Gestrals speak in what is basically gibberish, but you can still talk to them and understand them. This is exactly like the way we talk with dogs in real life. Even though they don't speak English, it always still feels like we can understand our pups. This of course broaches the subject of anthropomorphism, which for those who don't know, it's the act of giving human traits, emotions, or intentions to non-human entities such as animals, objects, or natural forces. So basically something that we all do daily. Continuing along this vein, Monoco is the only Gestral in the game who speaks the language of the humans verbally. This is because Verso taught it to him over the years, and I feel like this directly parallels how we teach dogs tricks and commands in real life, or in other words, it parallels a dog's capacity to learn our language. Lune is revealed to be a dog person in the late game, but in the early game, she's by far the character most in love with and fascinated by Gestrals, which, with hindsight, we can of course conclude is due to her affinity with dogs. Monoco outright asks Verso to snuggle in one scene. Verso asks Monoco if he can trim his hair. And the last evidence I will supply to confirm that Gestrals are meant to be representations of dogs is the culture. The Gestrals operate in ways that seem to be odes to both the antiquated understanding of dog pack behavior as well as the modern understanding of dog pack behavior. For example, Golgra is the chief of the village due to the fact that she is the strongest Gestral by far amongst the living and those waiting to be reincarnated. This adheres to the antiquated understanding of dog packs, which is that they fall in line under an alpha due to their dominant power. But at the same time, the society under Golgra adheres to the modern understanding of the dog pack behavior in that there is no constant battle for rank and cooperation is more important than hierarchy. We can see how the Gestral village has a pretty familial atmosphere rooted in mutual guidance and companionship. The best example is when Noko gets resurrected and Monoco and Golgra cooperate to decide what is best for his reintegration into life, and ultimately they decide on the Gestral village. Obviously, this moment showcases gentle leadership that prioritizes achieving harmony for the pack and the Gestrals within the pack. This mirrors dog behaviors in the wild. Now, speaking of Noko's resurrection, I want to get into the narrative importance of Gestrals within this story. A pretty widespread misunderstanding that I see online is that there are a lot of people who think that the Gestrals' reincarnation cycle and how they aren't the same when they are resurrected is meant to convey to us that when Mael resurrects people, they are no longer the same as they were before. This would obviously have the biggest implication for Mael's ending in this game, but like I said, the connection here is false. The Gestral reincarnation cycle has nothing to do with Mael's resurrections. Gestral reincarnations symbolize something completely different, and this symbolism is more evidence that they are representations of dogs. You see, we can glean from narrative clues that Verso painted this canvas as a child. Considering the faceless boy is a representation of his soul, it's fair to assume that this suggests he was the same age as the faceless boy when he first created the canvas. When we awaken in Epilogue Elysia, if you go to the fireplace before meeting with Clea, you can find two dogs cuddling by the fire. The bigger dog is named Noko, and the smaller dog is named Monoco III. In the game, Monoco tells us that the smaller Noko is actually his mentor and helped him to grow up when he was younger, despite of the fact that Monoco is now taking care of Noko. Do you understand? Let me put it together for you if you're not there yet. There have been 3 dogs in the Desandra family to date, not just the 2 we see in the game. The names of the dogs implies that there was an original dog in the family that was simply named Monoco. This dog would have been the older dog that raised Noko when Noko was a pup. Monoco has since passed away, and the adult Noko is now raising Monoco III. This sequence of events perfectly parallels Monoco's depiction of his relationship with Noko. So I believe that what this is giving credence to is that the Gestral resurrection cycle is not meant to implicate anything about Mael's resurrections. Instead, it is about the relationship between dogs and humans. When Noko dies, the party asks Monoco about the resurrection process, and Monoco responds that we can bring Noko back to life, but not all of Noko will return. It will be a different Noko. The one you knew is gone. If you pause and think about it, this perfectly mirrors a dog's life cycle with humans in real life. For many of us dog owners, the hardest day we face is when we inevitably have to part ways with them. Dogs live significantly shorter lives than humans. When they pass, it's obviously an extremely difficult time. But one of the salves many of us apply when the time is right is that we get a new dog. And it's just like Monoco alludes to. We can bring that element of our lives back. We can have another dog that will bring us the same joy and vigor, but it won't be the same. Our dog who passes will never return. Our new dog will always be a different Noko. If you're still unconvinced, I would raise you this. Given the fact that real Verso passed at the age of 26, which I think is a lie. Check out this video from me if you haven't yet to see what I'm referring to. And the fact that he painted the canvas as a boy, then we can assume that Verso would have painted the canvas around the time that his first dog, Monoco, passed away. This is why Verso gave the Gestrals the Resurrection River. He was in the throes of grief over his first dog passing. Psychologists have found that when children experience grief, they often turn to storytelling or fantasy as a way to regain a sense of control and continuity. And of course, this is pretty on the nose for the context of Clair Obscur. The loss and love of his first dog may have quite literally been the inspiration for him to finally turn to painting and basically creating a tangible fantasy. So it's quite clear to me that the gestural reincarnation cycle is misunderstood by people who think it has anything to do with Mael's ending. It is a completely separate allegory that is meant to depict the love and relationship between dogs and human. This concept of gestural reincarnation represents a child's emotional response to loss, as it captures the feeling that when a family pet dies and a new one arrives, it's as if the old friend has returned, only changed. The companionship is familiar, yet the companion is new. Honestly, I think the layering on the meanings for gestrals within the story serves as one of the most emotionally potent and unambiguous symbols in the entire game. Once you realize, you just feel so much more love and profound care for the gestrals in the game. I want to explore one more symbolism when it comes to gestrals, and perhaps this could be one of the only lingering questions that you have left. If they're meant to represent dogs, why did Verso paint them the way that he did? After all, they basically look like wooden paintbrushes. My theory is this: as we know, the real Verso was passionate about music and less so about painting. I think that Verso probably loved his dogs so much that he considered them his inspiration. In other words, since he conceptualized them as paintbrushes, maybe his dogs were more akin to therapy dogs. Maybe his dogs are what gave him the strength to be able to paint, which is something he didn't seem to particularly enjoy. After all, studies have shown that companion animals could provide not only emotional regulation, but also creative support and resilience in stressful environments. Thank you. Obviously, paintbrushes symbolize creativity and control in a vacuum, but in the context of this game, it's more literal that painting is the ability to create a canvas, to create life. So I think he designed his beloved gestrals as paintbrushes as a tribute to the fact that his dogs inspired him to perform the Dysandra expectation, which is to paint a canvas. In other words, there would be no canvas or Lumiere without the love and support of the real Verso's dogs. And that's why they are depicted as paintbrushes. So in the end, gestrals aren't just quirky NPCs, they're the emotional heartbeat of Clair Obscur. Through them, we get a window into the real Verso's grief, his childhood, his imagination, and most of all, his love. They are memory given form, companionship given voice, and symbols of a bond that defies even death. Their presence reminds us that what we create and who we love never really leaves us. In loving the gestrals, I think we're also loving the silent, loyal companions many of us have had in our lives. And for a game painted in melancholy and magic, that might be the most beautiful brushstroke of all. I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you infinitely from the bottom of my heart. It's been great chatting with you all and even getting to know some of you. As the channel grows, I want that sense of camaraderie and community to be a staple. So along that vein, I wanted to share with you a few things. In thinking of ways I can offer you guys value outside of the videos, something came to mind as I watched literally thousands of you converse. I want to start up a monthly call where viewers of the channel can debate any and all things video games. Obviously in the near future, I'd expect us to be chatting Clair Obscur for the most part, but this is a channel and community where we will cover many different games in the long run, so anything is free game. We can hash it out over in the Discord for sure, but I think in the long run, this could evolve into something where we have debates on topics that we pick ahead of time, and we can have teams or 1v1 debates and a panel of judges. Whoever wins the debate can get shoutouts in videos where I name drop and I also say which debate they won and how many they have won to date. It would be cool to see if debate GOAT, so to speak, emerges on the channel in the long run, but honestly, I just want a better way to connect with those of you who are most passionate about video games, because I'm right there with you. I've always loved this shit and I always will. So to enter our Senate chamber and get going on debates, head over to the links in the description and sign up for a monthly membership either here on YouTube or over on Buy Me a Coffee. I'm so excited to get this going, and let's tentatively say our first debate will be about the game's endings. To be clear, content will run as usual on the channel and the videos will still be in-depth analysis on different things, and depending on how this video does, I'm actually thinking maybe Sunday could be the day that you guys expect to see a video from me each week. Let me know what you think about that. But that wraps up the updates from me on my end, and I hope to chat with you in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on the video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and have a great day, night, or morning, and remember to be kind and thoughtful. Peace.